Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and with me today, I'm excited to have Julian Gordon. Welcome, Julian.
What's going on, Jim? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Julian is a friend and a client and is truly inspirational. And I really think, especially with all the things going on in our country today, I just am so impressed and commend Julian for what he's doing and the way that his mindset is about success. And I don't want to tell your story, Julian, but I want you to tell a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about where you're at, what you're doing, where you came from, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, real quick. Originally from Oakland, California, son of two doctors. So I grew up middle class, but after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad in college, I realized that middle class was actually not the place to end up. And so I started to recognize that there was another class that I've labeled the asset class. And the asset class are people who live off of their assets, not off of their active income or busting their ass. So once I came to that understanding in my mind, then I made freedom and acquiring assets my goal, as opposed to just going after the highest paying job. And that has changed my life ever since I made that decision.
That's awesome. Okay, I have one very important question about you growing up in Oakland. Okay,
yes,
now this could make this interview very quick. No, I'm just kidding. Are you a Raider fan?
I'm not a Raiders fan. I'm not a
disappointed.
I don't really have any teams. So
okay.
And some people, they'll grow up somewhere and then 20 years later, their team will win the championship, but they never went to any games when they were young, but now they want to rep their city. That's not me. So I'm not even a Warriors fan, even though they were at their peak over the past 5 years. So I don't just jump on the bandwagons.
All right. Okay. All right. As long as you're not a 49ers fan, we're going to be okay. We're
okay,
keep
cool.
going with the interview. I'm just kidding. Or a Chiefs fan. No, I love my Chiefs fans. My wife has actually decided she's a Chiefs fan because she loves Patrick Mahomes. So, she's unlike the fan you were talking about. Is she likes a player, so then she becomes a fan.
Right.
So it's and here I'm saying you can't like the Chiefs if I'm a lifelong Raider fan. I mean, that just doesn't work. But she was a Bronco fan before that. So I'm not making any progress in that argument, Julian. So I love that. Okay. Grew up in Oakland, child of two doctors. What kind of docs are your parents?
Was an anesthesiologist and an oral surgeon.
Wow.
But I saw one of them actually deal with some mental health issues and actually lose their license. And so that's when I quickly realized that high income alone was not just a safe bet, because if something happens to you physically or mentally, then all of that disappears quickly. And so whereas if you had acquired assets during that period of high income, you would still be okay despite changes in your mental and physical experience of life.
Now that's great, man. That's well said. And you learn that at a really early age, and and I commend your parents for giving you that flexibility. I have a lot of friends that are docs, and some of them are a little bit more rigid in, hey, you should become a doctor, but that world of medicine is definitely changing. But you said it is, even if you're a doctor, you might be at the top of the herd, right? But you're still in the herd.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
you're not free.
100%. You already know the definition of freedom is actually when your passive income is greater than your cost of living. And even if you're a high paid professional, but it's all active income, unless you're like an athlete and you're literally just getting like $1 million for every quarter of the game, right? Unless you're a high paid athlete, you aren't free, because the moment you stop showing up and stop trading time for money, your income stops. And so, when I realized that there was actually a faster path to freedom, in fact, you don't even have to be a millionaire financially to get to freedom. So let's just say your cost of living is $4,000 per month. Literally, if you can acquire several multifamily homes and probably get up to maybe 10 doors that are cash flowing at $400 per month, you are free, though you may not have $1 million in your account, because your passive income has surpassed your cost of living.
And you're exactly right. What's really cool about, I love working with young people that get this, because I'm 55. When I was in school, and I grew up in Los Angeles in the inner city, and nobody taught me about money, and I didn't really understand how money worked. So I went in that typical career path of learning about money, which everything I learned was a lie, right? Mm-hmm. It was put your money in Wall Street, all these different things, right? And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I met Nelson Nash, and it changed my life. And so I think the thing that's interesting, though, is we're never taught that our goal is to have freedom. We're taught to trade our time for money and make that a really high rate.
Yes.
Right. Like you want to be really well paid.
Yes.
Right. But what we really want, and so you could live your life 40, 30, 20 years and then hopefully retire. Right. Which, we on this show, and as you know, and I'm sure you are this way as well, is I don't want to ever retire.
Right.
I mean, to retire means to be taken out of service, and service to other people is what life's all about. I mean, that's where every reward that you get comes from. When you're buying assets and you have multifamily real estate, you're providing homes for people.
Yeah.
Right. And those memories and all of those great things. But you could do it. My point is that what you just said, I've seen people do in less than a year. I mean, and maybe in a few months.
Yes. Yes.
Versus forever in their lifetime, and taking forever and maybe still not getting there.
Yeah.
Right.
We call that earned income. When you die and get cremated, they put you in an urn.
Yeah.
So earned income is any money that you have to work to death for. And that's what a lot of people do. They work to death for money.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, you have a great book that I got right here that I just got, right? Okay. Rich and Righteous, right? Yes. Which I love, that Spiritual Secrets to Mastering Money, Manifestation, and Your Mind, right? Yeah. Now, I think the first step might be that last one. You got to manage your mind, right?
Oh, 100%. That is the fertile soil. So my work in this world is I got heavenly work and I have earthly work. And my heavenly work is teaching financial spirituality through Rich and Righteous and the teachings that are in there. And then my earthly work, the tangible and the material, is real estate. And I teach people how to acquire multifamily real estate. And so I really believe that I'm here to bring heaven on earth. And heaven is our mental experience of life, and earth is our material experience of life. And the goal for everyone is to have what you see in your mind actually align with what you're actually experiencing in your physical reality. And so that's how I think about my work. It's twofold. And, I went really hard on the real estate first, and I built a huge following, and I've helped hundreds of people acquire multifamily real estate. But I felt like I had to demonstrate physically first, and then bring the spiritual principles in that were back of everything. And so for me, I own my mental real estate before I own any physical real estate. As you said, it's your mind. And so, but in order to attract people, I led with the physical, because that's what people like to see. They have to see it to believe it. But when you really understand how manifestation in the mind works, you actually have to believe it in order to see it. And so, for instance, in the dating world, if you believe that all men are dogs, right, then you could go out and the perfect person could walk in front of you, but you wouldn't see them because your mind says that they don't exist. Or if you think that all women are witches, then you could go out, the perfect partner could walk in front of you and you wouldn't see her because your mind says that she doesn't exist. And so I believe that you have to believe it up here in order to see it first. And so even in this midst of this real estate economy where people are like, the prices are high, there's no more deals, etc., I still find deals every day because I believe that there are deals to be found every day.
Right.
I don't, and my experience does not have, that could be your experience. That could be the national experience. Oh yeah, home prices are through the roof, this and that. That can be the national experience, but that does not have to be my individual experience. And so, and I believe that our mindset is what shapes our individual experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, it's interesting. I have a 12-year-old and I talk to her like all the time about having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset from that book Mindset by I can't think of her name, but the Stanford professor. And your mindset it can get attacked by noise, right? The noise you just mentioned. the market's too high. There's nobody want, I mean, okay, but like I'm in Florida and I know that it's people are paying dumb money for real estate, but that doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities, right? And there are opportunities, meaning that through this COVID chaos, people have decided, I don't want to run a business anymore. I don't want to run my real estate business or anything. In fact, we just had a client in the last couple of weeks acquired $20 million worth of real estate.
Wow.
And he'd been working on for 9 months, right? Now, it didn't happen overnight. It just happened to, these two things closed up.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so, there's $20 million of real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, so anybody that says you can't do it, you're always going to hear that. It's going to be a bad real estate market. It's going to be a low real estate market. It's going to be a high real estate market. The financing isn't right. Interest rates are too high. And, you're always going to hear that noise.
Yeah.
And, what I love is you say somewhere in the book, and now I can't think of exactly the way you said it, but you said something about just kind of faith. You were talking about like how faith gets you through that. And maybe it was at the end in the conclusion. But it's faith makes the difference. Like if you have faith, then you know that God can do anything. So, if I have faith and I trust God to direct my path, then it doesn't matter if it's a high real estate market, low real estate, low interest rates, high interest rates.
Yeah. So I quit my job at the bottom of the last recession. And this is part of the reason I wrote the book. I quit my job January 9th, 2009. If you go look at the S&P 500, it is literally like the lowest point the S&P 500 has been in over 100 years. And I quit my job at that time because I was being pulled by my purpose, right? And my belief, again, what my mind believes, right? Scripture says, it is done unto you as you believe. And my belief is that if my creator created me for a purpose, right, then why would it put all kinds of obstacles in my way to stop me from actually living out that purpose? That just doesn't make sense to me. So I trusted that if I walked in my purpose, it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all these things shall be added unto you. So for me, I sought my purpose, and I knew that because that was why I was created, that everything that I needed would be supplied to me along that journey. And that is exactly what has occurred. And I've experienced more abundance and wealth by walking in my purpose than I would have had I stayed at a traditional job that I left 2009.
I love how you said that too, because, if you don't have faith and you're doing it alone and you're relying on your skills and your knowledge, but having faith in allowing, the way that I heard it described is kind of like it's like you're putting down puzzle pieces, but you don't have a picture of the puzzle, right? Mm-hmm. But you really don't want to put that piece in if you don't have faith that the picture is going to be awesome, right? That the picture is going to be great. So what you do is you just don't play the game. You just are stagnant. But when you have faith, you can't lose. Right. You can't fail. You might have setbacks, but we say, we sometimes fail, but we never lose, right? Is we have setbacks, but it's the setback then propels us to the goal. And there's a process of seeing things, and it's from Dan Sullivan, the strategic coach, as he says, you have vision, opposition, transformation, action.
Yes.
VODA, right? And first you got to visualize what you want, right? Yes. Which is what you did, and what so many people have read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and they just go, they don't get it, or it doesn't move them. Yes. When you can read something and it moves you, right? Yes. So yes. I love in the book that you start really almost everything, every commandment and chapter with a Bible verse, and I love that. Nelson used to do that too. And he would always, when you asked him a question, he would always give you a Bible verse, and then he would never just give you the answer, right? He wanted you to think about the answer.
Yes, yes. So money, the reason I've tried to connect these two things is because money and spirituality have been disconnected for a long, long time. And for me, money is an inert spiritual substance. Money is just stored energy. So money is an inert spiritual substance that is neither good nor bad. What gives money its positive or negative charge is the person who's holding it. It's the charge of the person who's holding it and how they decide to use it in the world. And so what I mean by money is stored energy is, let's say you had a cow and I had 100 apples, right? And you wanted 50 apples and I didn't want a cow because I'm vegetarian. So in that moment, I give you 50 apples and you give me a piece of paper, an IOU that says I owe you the equivalent of half of a cow, right? And so now that piece of paper is holding the energy that I put into producing those 50 apples, right? The tilling that I did, the cultivating, the people I hired, the water, the resources, the time I put into making those apples, it's stored in this piece of paper now. So my energy and the value that I created in the past is stored in this piece of paper. Now, this piece of paper deflates, of course, due to inflation, if I just hold on to it and I don't put it into use. Money is meant to be circulated. It is not meant to be held. And what you see is that a lot of people, what they think is financial security by hoarding and holding on to money is actually a demonstration of their financial insecurity. Because right now, especially with interest rates in a savings account being 0.03%, right? Basically, if you're holding any money in a savings account, you're literally saying that I don't have the creative capacity in my mind to make this money yield more than 0.03%.
Right.
That means that, yeah, that means that you don't feel like you have the creative capacity to make that money return at 12%, right? And that's bare minimum real estate. Bare minimum real estate. And 12% is significant because if the rule is 72 divided by 12 means that your money doubles every 6 years. But at 0.03% in a savings account, 72 divided by 0.03 means that your money doubles every 2,400 years.
Right.
2,400 years. That's the insecurity of a savings account. And then on top of this, we're going to experience hyperinflation with all the money that was printed. So you actually losing money with it sitting in a savings account because money is meant to be used. If you think about it like water, it is meant to flow. It is meant to circulate. It is not just meant to be held and get stale. And so I don't spend money, I use money and I circulate money. And to circulate means to return back to point of origin. So when I invest in something, I invest strategically and make educated investments. And when I do so, it continues to circulate back to me and through me. The reason my creator continues to pour into me because it knows that the buck does not stop here. So why would your creator continue to give you stored energy that you are only going to hoard? Right. Then it's not being used.
Why? Well, the Bible says that God won't, if you hoard your wealth, God won't keep blessing you, right?
That's exactly how it works. And if you look at the parable of the talents, there was one who got 4 talents, the other that got 2, and the other one that got 1. The person who got 5, doubled it to 10. The person that got 2 doubled it to 4. The person that got 1 in their scarcity mindset actually buried it. Buried it. And he got scorned because he buried it and didn't put it into use, didn't expand it, didn't multiply it. We're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, right? So when you understand what money is and what it wants, it changes the way you actually use it. For instance, everybody knows that they want more money, but very few people have ever asked the question, what does money want? What do you mean? What does money want? What does money want? If you had a better understanding of what money was and what it wanted, do you think you would have an easier time attracting it into your life? If you were dating and you knew who that person was and what they wanted, do you think you would have a better chance of attracting them into your life? Yes. So it's really important to get clear on what money wants. Money wants to circulate. Money wants to be of value. Money wants to be used. Money wants to travel all around the world. Money wants to meet different people, right? Money wants to be transmuted from a piece of paper into something manifest and some sort of idea. So money does not want to sit in your savings account. It does not. That is lazy money. And so we call money dead presidents, but our responsibility as stewards of this money is to resurrect dead presidents. And we are supposed to actually give cash consciousness because it is dead sitting in your savings account. We give it consciousness by putting it into circulation, and we circulate it towards ideas, ideals, investments, and institutions that we believe in. And when we do that, what I found is that it continues to circulate in my life because I am circulating it.
I love what you said there, because motion is a law of God. If air doesn't flow in and out of our bodies, we die. If blood doesn't flow through our bodies, we die. If water doesn't flow, like you said, it becomes stagnant, it dies. Money is the same way. And in the parable of the talents, which some people get confused because they think it's like talents, but a talent really was like a year, it was like a lot of money. So in today's world, it might be like $180,000 or thereabouts. So, to get 4 of those $180,000 chunks is a lot, and to double it is a lot. But the servant that trusted the master and knew what the master wanted to have happen with the money multiplied it by putting it in motion, like you said. And if you remember what the master says at the end, he says, "You wicked and evil servant, the least you could have done is give it to the banks to earn interest." The least that you could have done. Right?
And people take that wrong, right? Because there's other scripture that says, "Do not give your pearls to swine," right? Now, what are your pearls? Your pearls are your money. Right. And what do they tell you to put your money when you were a child? They tell you to put it in what?
Savings. Yeah.
A piggy bank.
Yeah.
And what is a pig? Pig is swine. So literally it's telling you, do not give your money to swine. But that is what people by default do. And then the bank goes and multiplies your money by 1,000. And I'll show you how. If they give you 0.03% interest in a Bank of America savings account, and then they charge you 3% for a mortgage, that's 100x right there. But then we also know through the fractional reserve banking system that they only have to keep 10% on hand. So they're able to multiply that by another 10, and they've actually multiplied what you deposited by 1,000.
Yeah, Julian, in 2016, Bank of America, that I think you just mentioned, is their Bauer financial report said that they paid their on their interest-bearing deposits 0.2%, a little higher than it is today, right? But they averaged 5.2% on their loans. Okay, so what you do is, the way a business works, for the audience that doesn't understand this, Julian, I know you get this, is it's your cost of doing business divided into your profit. So 0.2% goes into 5.2 26 times. So that's a 2,600% profit margin before fractional reserve banking. Right? Now think about that. 2,600%. Okay. Now, what is the bank? But then what the bank knows is what you just said. Okay. The bank creates velocity of money because they loan money out to you. They loan money out to me, let's say for a mortgage. What do they do with the money that you pay them every month? They loan it out again.
Correct.
And again, and again. And the faster that your money moves, that's called velocity of money, not scientific velocity, because we will have some engineers out there that'll say that's not the definition of velocity. No, this is an economic term. The faster that our money moves, the faster that we have. And there's only one pool of money in the world. All you got to do is get it to flow to you instead of somebody else.
And it's an expanding pool. Abundance mindset will let you know that it's expanding pool. The universe and energy, they say energy is never created or destroyed, but it does shift and it takes new shape, right? And there's untapped energy that we have not tapped into. So there are $1 million ideas in people's mind, despite the fact, let's say the money supply, because there's the actual physical money supply, and then there's the actual value that is out in the world. And those two things are different. Right? The physical money supply is finite. We can actually go put a number on that. But the abundance and the wealth that exists in the world is actually infinite, because you and I, we could powwow right now and come up with a multi-billion-dollar idea right now. And that wealth starts to take shape, right? Through our conversation, whenever 2 or more are gathered, we know that amazing things happen. So you are 100% right. I've been using, in terms of the velocity of money, I've come up with another term called our personal internal rate of return. And that is how quickly we are growing and expanding money in our lives. So I'll take Elon Musk, for example. When he exited PayPal at 180 million, he grew that to 194 billion over about 20 years. If you look at the internal rate of return on that, he's basically grown his wealth by 44.44% over each year for the past 20 years. And so if people go look at what their net worth was last year, and they compare it 12 months ago and they compare it to today, that will give you your personal internal rate of return. And to be honest, if you start with $10,000 right now, you simply grew that by 12%, every year for 60 years, you would have $10 million.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are chasing these get rich quick schemes. I hope people are winning in crypto, but every time somebody wins in crypto, somebody is losing. So I just know that the slow and steady wins the race. And so all my real estate investments, they have to yield at least 12% cash on cash return. And of course, we know that the cash on cash return is only one of the 4 benefits of real estate. I still get principal pay down. I still get all the tax savings, and I still get appreciation. So the cash on cash return typically only accounts for about 50% of the actual return. So if I'm getting a 12% cash on cash return, when you add in the other financial variables that do occur and accrue through real estate, I'm actually getting a 24% cash on cash return, similar to what you mentioned about the bank.
Yeah. And you know, what's funny about that is Logan Rankin was one of the guys that we had on. We talked about cash on cash, and we kind of settled in at that 25%. Now I think he said when he figured it all out, he's a little bit higher than that. But, you know, sometimes I show people using infinite banking, 25% cash on cash, and they say, well, that's too high. And then I say, well, you need to go back and think about, you, just like you said, you have a rate of return on your appreciation. You have what I call a rate of cash flow on the cash flow. Then you have tax benefits that if I'm saving money, that I'm making money, that's a return.
Correct.
Right.
And principal pay down.
So then I have all of this that goes together, and then I have protection against inflation, right? Because I have control. So I have a control rate of return, which by having that, I can't be just destroyed by factors in the market that I don't control. Right.
Correct.
And, you know, I think it's so important that, Julian, we probably could go on and on and on talking about this, but why do you think we're not taught this? Or is it that we are taught this if we just grab our Bible, but we're taught, and I'm meeting with somebody later today. We're talking about writing a book, and I'm talking about how we are financial slaves, and people, and then that's a tough word, right? But the truth is the truth, and we're not taught about financial freedom. We are taught about financial slavery.
100%. I mean, if you look at the US dollar is 75% cotton. So a lot of people think that slavery is over, but they're still picking cotton every single day. They go out and earn bales of cotton, and then they get rations from their master every 2 weeks. So it's called modern day slavery. And modern day slavery is mental, and it is monetary. Okay. You might not see shackles. You might not see people chained up, but we hear about the golden handcuffs all the time. So there's the overpaid trap and there's the underpaid trap, right? So you got to escape both of those. So the reason I think Nelson refers to scripture in the way, and the reason I went to scripture when trying to educate about money, is because I think there's some religious beliefs that people have that make them repel money. So we hear scriptures like money is the root of all evil. That's not what it says. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. But then, of course, here in this very Christian country, people look to Jesus as this sacrificial being that was in poverty. But Jesus said, I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly, right? And so a lot of people have this paradigm in their mind that being rich is evil. Being rich is evil, right? Rich man can't make it through the eye of the needle. It's easier for a man to get into heaven. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. But if you remember Joseph of Arimathea, right, which was one of Jesus' disciples who supposedly requested his tomb and owned the land that the tomb was on, he was labeled as a rich disciple. So it is possible to walk this very fine line. I'm not going to lie. It's a very fine line where you are serving God and not money, because it's very easy to make money your God. This is why they put in God we trust on money. But if you believe that being rich is evil, then the duality of that is that you believe that being poor is good.
Right.
And that people's moral code will override anything else. And so subconsciously their moral code to be good, right, and to be on their way to heaven, etc., will override anything else. And this is why people are comfortable subconsciously staying in poverty, because they believe that it is noble, that is good, that it is sacrificial. But I know that as a giver, I must receive in order to give more. I cannot just give of an empty cup. My cup is supposed to runneth over. And the better receiver I become, right, the more I'm able to give. And so it's really important for people to develop not only their business model, which is how you receive from the value created, but you also have to have your blessing model. A lot of people have their blessing model. They know how they give, but they have difficulty receiving, and therefore it actually cuts off their giving because they're not receiving enough to be able to continue that cycle of giving. And so I believe it's really these subconscious beliefs and programming, in part coming from religion and who we put up as our sacrificial leaders. MLK, Harriet Tubman had to sell her home. MLK, you know, Malcolm X home taken from him, et cetera. It's like all of these leaders that we lift up, we position them as, you know, they were poor, and so this is what makes them noble, and therefore that's how I want to be. But I believe that I can do more good with more stored energy at my fingertips to use.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%, man, and I love that I love the way that you said that. I love that you said it with a lot of passion, because I agree. When you you know, if you compared you know, probably maybe not a great example, but Bill Gates versus Mother Teresa, who's done more, who's impacted more people's lives or saved more lives. I mean, you know, you got to say it's Bill Gates because of what he created, right?
Yeah.
Now, did he do it for a, as you put in here, a righteous reason? I don't know.
We don't know about that. We don't
know. But God uses everybody, right? And he impacted more people, and, you know, the software and computers for people, you know, all of this stuff. So the impact, our impact is not, like you said, you know, a great book is Thou Shalt Prosper by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. And he takes this and he says, you know, the Jewish culture and what Jews are taught about owning your business, right? And being honest in business and being, you know, all of those things, is that's why, as a percentage, Jewish people own a lot more businesses than people that weren't taught that. Mm-hmm. So it's what were you taught?
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, if you're taught that being poor is righteous, well, then I believe that you've been taught the wrong thing. Yeah. And especially as a community, right? If you were taught this as a community and you were taught this as, this is your mindset. Yeah. It's really, really hard to break out of that. I mean, really hard to break out of that.
It is. And, you know, the people who have negative intentions in this world, they don't fear the people who have righteous intentions, because the people with righteous intentions have negative cash flow.
Right. Yeah.
They don't fear it, because you have the number one energy you have is the energy that's in your body. If you don't have any energy in your body, then the money doesn't matter. But the second form of energy, actually, there's several forms of energy. There is money. And that is stored energy that can be passed down from generations, the effort and the value that other people have created that now is in your power that you can use as a steward of it, and you can channel it in the right directions. So you have your personal capital, you have your intellectual capital, which is what you know, you have your physical capital, which is the resources that you have financial capital, you have social capital, and then you have human capital, which is your team members who are supporting you in manifesting these visions. All of those are forms of energy and capital that you can use to create the life you desire and the impact that you desire. Now, the problem for most people is that their vision, especially this whole notion from The Secret and the vision boards and things of that nature, their vision board typically only accounts for them. And so in reality, most vision boards are actually selfish. They only include you. And so what I like to challenge people to think about is their give vision board. Who do you give vision to? You are helping give vision to people who had been stuck financially and who have come across money, and you're giving them a new avenue and a way to become their own bank. You're giving somebody who thought that they had to rely on a bank the vision of actually becoming their own bank. That is the
Right.
work that you do in the world. So what is your give vision board, and who are you giving that vision to? We are all blind in different areas of our lives. I'm blind in the area of my health right now. I'm healthy, but I want to improve my eating and I want to improve my physical exercise regimen. And so I actually need somebody who has vision in that area to come lead me and guide me. So I'm just saying that as an example of, we are all blind in different aspects of our lives, and you are here to be the light and the guide for somebody else to help them in a specific area of their life. And I believe that's, we all have a role, and that's where all of our value is. Our most high income skill comes from the most high. But the only way to tap into that is to, the way I tap into it, not the only way. I never want to say the only way. The way I tap into it is by taking time in my mornings to meditate. And in the same way we plug in our phone to charge up, I meditate to plug into my spiritual source, my creator, to get those divine downloads of what I should be doing and how I should be showing up today. And so we have to be in that constant dialogue with our mother, father, God, whatever you call it, however you define it. You have to be in that constant connection to stay in alignment. I used to be in the paradigm of hustling and working harder, right? But once I broke free from that, I got in the paradigm of alignment, and alignment has brought me more joy and more ease and even more abundance in my life.
I love that. So you talked about something, you talked about being a guide and helping people. And, I truly believe that, that's kind of what we do. Like in our specialty, when we talk to people, is showing them how to be their own bank, why that's important. And we cover a lot of these subjects as we go through that, but we always want them to understand that it's not like Wall Street, where it's like, hey, give me your money because I'm so smart and I know so much more about money than you. And, you don't need to understand any of this. I'll take care of it. Right. And the way that you work with people, the way that we work with people, is they're the hero of the story. Yes. Right. When they go out and they become financially free, and it's not, hey, look what Julian did for me. It's how Julian helped me see that I could do this for myself. Right. Which is what God has done for Julian. Right. Is, remember, everybody has a mentor. A leader has to follow to become a leader. Right. And even you think one of the greatest leaders of all time, Moses had a mentor. That was God. Right. God gave him he gave him the path. Right. So, how do you work with people? Like, obviously people can get the book on Amazon. Is that right?
No, it's at moneyandmanifestation.com. If you go to amazon.com, you will overpay.
Okay.
So there's a little special at moneyandmanifestation.com. In fact, I give people 5 copies of the book because they're supposed to spread it. If you go to Amazon, you'll only get 1. You are supposed to share this. And the reason I give you 5 is so that you can immediately put yourself in a space of giving. Immediately start channeling that energy so that you can actually activate your process of receiving. So you're supposed to spread the wealth by giving away the other books and starting a Money and Manifestation Mastermind group. So that's at moneyandmanifestation.com, moneyandmanifestation.com. I'm also on Instagram at Julian Gordon, Jullien, Gordon, Gordon. That's Jullien, Gordon, Gordon. That's where I post the most content, is on Instagram.
Awesome. And so people, I love this mastermind. Did you say mastermind group, or would you?
Yeah.
That's awesome, because, I know that if I sat down with you for, 30, 40 minutes today, and like, let's say that we said, hey, we want to, if you and I just started drawing out how we're going to give away $1 million by the end of the year, right? We would come up with a plan in less than an hour, and I would have an idea. You would improve on my idea. Then I might improve on your idea. And that creative energy just makes it bigger. Right. And as long as we have the same goal as giving and not taking, then, or what's in it for us, in an hour, we could figure out how we were going to do that. So that's what I love about masterminds, because then you don't only have 2 people, right? You have a group of people that have a similar, and what you find in mastermind groups is, when the goal is to help other people, it'll be super effective. If it's, hey, how do I make $10 million a year? It's not, you know, I mean, like that's not the energy that flows, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And one of the most powerful masterminds in the world is Alcoholics Anonymous. And I experienced a significant other go through that program. And, you know, the research shows that when people just go to treatment alone, they have a 26% chance of staying sober. When they go to treatment and AA and have the community mastermind element, they have a 51% chance of staying sober. So it literally, the community aspect of it literally doubles your success rate. Now, of course, AA requires that you start in this negative place. You have to be an alcoholic or identify as an alcoholic. But mastermind groups are the space where you can rally around something positive, not just be initiated by a negative experience in life.
Absolutely. All right, sweet. Well, I'm going to wrap up, even though I've got a lot of other questions and a lot of other things, and maybe we'll have to have you back on later in the year or something, because I've got a lot of things that I want to ask you. And as I get a chance to read the book completely, I'm sure I'm going to have other things that I'd like to discuss. So maybe we can just plan on getting together again in the fall. But Julian, I like to ask people if God came down from heaven and said, I'm only going to allow you to retain the knowledge in one book that you've read, not outside the Bible, right? Because God's never going to tell us that he's going to take that away from us. But not that he would ever do this. Okay. But that you could only retain the knowledge of one book. What would it be?
So man, it's probably going to be Green Eggs and Ham.
Green Eggs and Ham. Why?
Yeah, it's the greatest sales book of all time. And I was reading it to my daughter one time, and as I was learning how to be a more effective marketer and things of that nature, you see that Sam I Am actually makes about 26 offers in that book to the character. Right? The character does not know initially whether they like green eggs or ham, but they reject it, right? And Sam knows that the character doesn't know because they haven't tried green eggs and ham. So Sam says, do you want it on a plane? Do you want it on a train? Do you want it with here? Do you want it there? You want it with this? You want it with that? And so Sam continues to make offers until eventually the character says, okay, I'll try. And once the character tried, he realized that he actually loved green eggs and ham, right? And so Dr. Seuss, I believe, got rejected about 26 times before he was published. And that's kind of what he wove into the narrative of Green Eggs and Ham. And when I think about sales is not some sleazy activity to me. Sales, I've defined sales as simply the process of getting someone to accept help. The sales is the process of getting someone to accept help. And when you have something that you know really helps people, that gives people vision, like I said about that Give Vision board, then you actually have a moral obligation to sell whatever it is that you have, because you're going to help them get to their desired destination faster, safer, and easier. For you, it's helping them get to financial freedom. For me, it's helping them get to financial freedom. You do it through infinite banking. I do it through multifamily real estate and financial spirituality. But you and I, the reason we're so aligned is because we have the same ultimate destination for the people that are there. And therefore, we have to get on those sales calls. We have to do those webinars. We have to do those trainings. We have to write those books, because we know that when they come to us and through us, that they will get to where they're trying to go faster, safer, and easier. If we let them leave our site, then we know that they're going to take longer. They're going to make more mistakes, costly mistakes in terms of time and money. And we don't want that for them. And they don't want it for themselves, but they don't know it until we guide them through the sales process, which is simply the process of getting someone to finally accept help and get out of the DIY mindset of I have to do this by myself.
Absolutely. And you know what? I love what you said about green eggs and ham. And I had a paradigm shift there because I'd never kind of equated it to that, but I'll share with you real quick. One of my favorite quotes is from Calvin Coolidge, and he says, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Mm-hmm. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent." You got to remember when he wrote this. Mm-hmm. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan "Press on" has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. And that's green eggs and ham in a nutshell, right?
Right there.
Yeah. Right there. Is the average salesperson that, you know, I hear these commercials, doesn't ask for the business once, but the sales made on average after 7 offers.
Yep.
Right. Now you just said over 20 offers for Sam I Am, but he was never he was never frustrated in the book. He was
Nope.
never. So when you have the right message, right, then be persistent, and be faithful. Any famous last words, Julian?
Any famous last words? And no famous last words, except that I am are two of the most powerful words in the English language, and whatever you say after I am shall be added unto you. So be mindful of how you speak about yourself and your experience, and always affirm the positive, and almost turn a blind eye to anything that you do not want to experience, not in terms of ignoring it, but in terms of keeping your focus on that which you want. And I know that it will come to you faster, safer, faster than you could have imagined.
Awesome. Julian, thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really, really enjoyed it and appreciate your time and your friendship. And I look forward to just getting to know you better and growing and helping you help more and more people. So until next time, Breakaway Wealth, you stay out of the herd, because nothing good happens in the herd.